now that we understand a little bit about siting and resource assessment and the kinds of graphs that we would like to make, I'll give you a proposed methodology for this particular task. So first, of course, we are researching wind and solar energy, how it works, the status of the industry, its uses, different applications, maybe different technologies that are out there. The second thing is to do a site assessment of the school. Again, we talked about understanding the different places that you may or may not put a wind turbine or solar panels, and then creating a map that shows 3 possible locations for your wind and solar technology. Again, you want to make sure that you have options, and you want to then weigh those options using pros and cons for different characteristics such as visibility, obstructions, land use, maybe environmental impact, and a bunch of other different things. That way you can actually determine which is the best in a very quantitative way. Next, you would want to measure or find data on how much wind or solar energy are available at each of the sites, because that will play into, again, which is the best site. And then creating the graphs and display the data that we talked about in terms of a diurnal cycle, a seasonal, annual cycle, your time series, your frequency distributions, and your wind rows. Discuss the limitations of the siting and resource assessments. Again, we're not using maybe the best equipment. Maybe your Met tower wasn't super close to the school, but it was the best data you could find. Those are the kinds of limitations we may want to state up front so we better understand how accurate our analysis is. And then lastly, again, reflect on the procedure and how you could do it better next time. So in terms of tools to use for this particular task, we talked a lot about weather stations. Weather stations are great. Again, Met towers are available through the Center for Wind Energy. There's online sources for getting that data. But in terms of physical tools, your weather station should definitely have an anemometer and a wind vane, and if possible, a pyranometer or light sensor. In terms of internet resources, the American Wind Energy Association has a wind energy siting handbook that could be very helpful to your students. It may have a lot more detail than they necessarily need for a single turbine, but it's a great starting place. There are lots of great sources for understanding how to orient your solar panels, which direction it should face in, and at what angle they should be placed. And then NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, has a weather archive that we mentioned earlier, and here's the link there. And then the National Renewable Energy Lab also has solar data. So we talked about that solar map that showed the solar patterns. You can actually get the physical data from that if you go to this NREL site. And lastly, some activities that are helpful as you're trying to take on this task. The Center for Wind Energy has created a resource assessment lesson plan, and this is a full resource assessment lesson plan that has all the steps in order to work through Excel to take raw data and turn it into the information that you need for a resource assessment. It also has power production estimate information in it, which will be the next task. The WindWise education curriculum, which is free and downloadable online, has a great unit on wind. It's made up of, I think, 4 or 5 different activities. It's great to look at if you're looking for some hands-on things to do in your classroom to prepare for this. The National Energy Education Development has a curriculum on exploring photovoltaics. It comes with a kit, which we have available at the center, but the curriculum is free and downloadable as PDFs on their website. Now, the Need Wind for Schools program curriculum has a couple of other activities that might be helpful. First, collecting weather and wind turbine data. Also building an anemometer so students understand better how anemometers work. And then measuring tall objects is a great activity for students to better understand how to find the height of obstructions around their campus, such as large trees that you're not going to be able to necessarily measure with a measuring tape. So using geometry to measure tall objects. So if you're going to be scoring this particular task, or you would like to send it to the Center for Wind Energy for us to score, here are the topics that we will be looking at. first, your research on wind and solar energy. Second, the site assessment with the 3 options, and you're weighing them with different factors. Your resource assessment, wind and solar, and looking at all the different graphs that we need to illustrate the characterization of our wind. Discussion of the limitations of the analysis and the recommendations for a total of 20 points. So the timeline, proposed timeline for this particular task is 11 weeks. It's a lot of work, so we want to make sure you have a lot of time to take care of this. It's proposed to start the 2nd week in January or the very beginning of your spring semester and end the 4th week or the end of March. Again, take as much time as you need, just a proposed timeline. And we'll finish up with some expert contacts. Again, you can always contact me here at the Center for Wind Energy. We're happy to help you with understanding how to site wind or solar at your school and also how to perform resource assessments. But we also encourage you always to contact a wind or solar installer or expert near you. They're usually always open to guiding student research teams. So we look forward to hearing from you. Good luck on your research tasks, and we'll talk to you soon.